Fulham, who hadn't beaten Liverpool under Marco Silva in 8 attempts until that game. This was the 8th attempt. They beat Liverpool 3-2. They ended Liverpool's 26-match unbeaten run in the Premier League. Liverpool's first away defeat in the league this season. And the strange thing was that when the game finished 3-2, I thought, yes, a great win for Fulham. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, that they got those goals in sort of fairly quick succession in the first half. That was what did it.
It was a 1-2-3 punch, wasn't it?
It was. I had to remind myself, this is their only second league defeat.
Yeah.
Because they didn't look that inspired.
Do you think Silva has looked at this and thought, this is the biggest shop window available, so I'm going to pull out all of the stops now in the spring sunshine down by the river?
It is. It must be a source of frustration because their last 6 games, lose, win, lose, win, lose, win. Like there's such an opportunity for them this season.
Yeah.
They're in that position where they're like 3 or 4 points off the top 4, but you just know in your heart of hearts that they're not going to get there because their next games, for example, are against Bournemouth and Southampton.
You might fancy them against Bournemouth now.
Yeah, you won't though, Jim, because I'll tell you something now. They'll play Bournemouth away from home. It won't be on telly, and they'll lose in a comprehensive 2-0 fashion.
What's happening here? I did think to myself...
We can go back to the Sheen,
when
don't
Fulham
worry.
won that game, I did think, what's the point of all of it? I went to jump in the river, people talked me out of it.
Yeah.
Like, what?
You're just swimming home, though, weren't you?
I flew home. It was a great win. And the thing is, when you say, you must be frustrated, not really.
No.
They beat Liverpool. I understand your point in that, there could be a bit more consistency. But Fulham are basically a sort of a mid-table team trying to punch up. The reason why teams are mid-table is because they don't win all the time. That's the point.
Yeah. But they win games that you think, how have they done that? And they lose games that you go, come on now. That's what I'm saying.
I think there's the odd, but that's just that's.
Can I also just throw in there that Fulham's
mid-table's a funny old mysterious mistress, Luke Moore.
It is. She's a cruel mistress.
I'd say more mysterious.
Okay, she's a mysterious mistress. I want to get close to you. Peter Andre, everyone, eh? Where's Bubba Ranks when you need us? Hey?
Oh, lovely mention.
Yeah. But Fulham's record against Liverpool is a very interesting saga in itself because you think of the opening day of the 22-23 season. They drew 2-2. They were brilliant. I was there that day. They could have won it. No one was expecting it.
This season at Anfield, it was 2-2.
They narrowly lost to them in the League Cup. Semi-final 2 legs.
Yep.
They give a good account of themselves.
4-3 on aggregate, yeah. Silva's always given a decent account of Fulham against Liverpool, but he's never beaten them. And this was a great opportunity, and they took it. Those 3 goals in that 13-minute period were brilliant. And Liverpool, you talked about wobbles, Jim, that's where Liverpool were on the ropes. Liverpool, of course, went ahead with McAllister, who...
Lovely goal. As well.
And he really is... He's one of the few players in that side who is still playing with an intensity and a real sense of purpose.
He cut quite a frustrated figure.
I'll come back to that. But a great goal. And again, when McAllister, as he did before at Anfield in a previous season against Fulham, when Liverpool pull something out the bag like that, you go, oh yeah, they've got that, haven't they? And the heads can go down.
Yeah.
But then Ryan Sessegnon continued his wonderful return to Fulham.
Rene Sessegnon.
There
you go.
That's very nice, Jim, actually.
Don't be so...
Yeah, do it again.
Rene Sessegnon.
Yeah,
I was working it out as I said it.
Yeah. Remember, you're talking to Luke and me. We'll lap that up.
You're standing by it though, aren't you?
Yeah, you'll probably cut this out so it sounds like I just came up with it off the top of my head, won't you?
Don't look at us, we don't cut anything. It's producer Rory who does it.
I was about to say, we want to leave everything in. But just as well, we've got a producer, otherwise we'd all be in jail.
Because of Rory, I simply cannot get myself cancelled, and I have to keep coming every week. Every week I've got to come in here.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, dear.
But it was. You're right to make that point, though, I think, because there's an inevitability about Liverpool this season. Like you say yourself, you're 26 games unbeaten. They've only lost 2 games in the league, including this one.
And on top of that, sorry, just to jump in, is that Fulham have dropped a lot of points from winning positions this season. Only Ipswich and Southampton have dropped more. So it did feel like it could go that way.
Southampton aren't now technically even a Premier League club anymore, so you need to reiterate that. You need to change that.
Sure.
No, okay, right. But no, you're right. I think you have a good crack of it. There was a situation, I think, before the first Liverpool goal where Fulham absolutely should have had a penalty. Ridiculous decision.
Do you think they should have done?
Oh, mate, come on. come on. The keeper completely cleans him out.
Yeah.
I think the ball's gone by then, though, isn't it?
But it doesn't matter. It's still live. The ball's still live.
I guess so.
And it
but I
goes to
just figure
another
that's
Fulham.
why they made that decision.
But doesn't it go to another Fulham player eventually? And you shank something wide or something.
Well, it went. No, Muniz and Van Dijk then had a sort of a clash of heads. I think. Do you know what? I think the melee probably helped.
It's a penalty kick, and it wasn't given, in my view. So
didn't need it though.
No, you didn't. But then when Liverpool go and score, you think, I know what you mean.
It's
difficult for us.
Yes.
And to come back with that 1-2-3 punch, that really showed up what is something you've been saying to me or saying to us for a little while now. I think maybe even just off the record that Liverpool's intensity is been lacking
since the PSG loss.
Yeah,
they've not really been the same. And it was interesting in that cup final because actually Newcastle were not going to be denied, and we've talked about that. That PSG victory at Anfield in the Champions League, that has done a lot of Newcastle. Did Newcastle real solid because if I think if Liverpool go through, they still kind of continue playing in the same manner. You can argue that there is
not a fatigue element. Yeah,
there could be, but I don't think that's it. Really, I think the fatigue element is always going to be there with a top level side who are playing a lot of football. But your intensity and your drive and all that, what you've still got to play for, the sniff of silverware drags you through it.
There is essentially no jeopardy for them at the moment.
No, exactly. And
so
I think
Fulham have got, it's mad, isn't it, given that Liverpool aren't the champions yet but are clearly going to be. Fulham have got way more to play for.
Yeah, they do. And I think that is a lot of that is to play.
Story,
because people say, if Arsenal had only just a few, look how Liverpool wouldn't be playing like this if Arsenal were closer to them.
No
so it's difficult for Liverpool. I understand that. And as I say, more of an observation than a criticism, because how can you criticise a side who are that amount of points ahead, could win the league if results go their way on the 20th of April? I fancied them to win it at the end of April. It's not the end of April, it'll be the start of May. So it's very, very difficult and perhaps silly to criticise them. But the observation is that Liverpool have dropped their intensity. Yes, they were pushing for an equaliser, of course they were. But the one player who, and Arne Slot even commented it himself, Mo will show up again, I don't worry about that. Mo Salah didn't look like Mo Salah. You could have said, that's an academy player there who's had his first game in the Premier League. He was not interested.
When I
say he's not interested,
an academy player would be interested, right? But he just wouldn't be there.
As in, if I say he's not interested, I don't think he's like down tools or anything. But he's not the same Mo Salah. He'll still win Player of the Season, as he should. It depends whether Isak will catch him and if Mo Salah suddenly thinks, actually there's a golden boot here to play for, to see what they're... But he's going through the motions now. He will almost certainly leave in the summer. He's done what he needed to do. He's had a bordering on, or one might argue, a legendary last season, if indeed this is his last season, which I think most of us probably suspect it is now. But there was, when he got the ball, nobody in the crowd thought, oh crap, that's Salah. No one thought, there was just no fear factor.
Yeah, and I think it's noticeable, isn't it, that when Harvey Elliott came on, obviously he's desperate to score because, there's a kind of rivalry between him and the Fulham fans. But that was when Liverpool looked a lot more dangerous. That was when you're looking at that game and you're thinking, oh, God, they've got that second goal. It feels really inevitable that they'll get another one. And they pushed and they pushed and they couldn't find it, but they looked more likely to get it with Elliott on the pitch.
Yeah, obviously, you could argue with Salah, maybe the fatigue element had crept in a bit early because obviously Elliott comes on in Paris and gets the goal. Yeah. And Salah at Anfield on another day might have scored and didn't. So
it could well be a factor as well. You're right.
Could be a factor. And again, you don't want to be unfair to the guy because I say the season he's put in, even if he stops playing now, he's still going to be player of the season, and rightly so. But it is noticeable, and I think that for teams playing Liverpool now in the last handful of games of the season, as Fulham have showed, yes, you're going to have a formidable opponent, and yes, Liverpool will be favourites. But if you're playing for something in point with Fulham here, with points needing to be grabbed for European places and so on, there's a chance now. You'd much rather be facing Liverpool now because, again, it does feel like they've not got much to play for, which is a strange situation, but that is because of how dominant they've been in the league.
And I think the story of Salah this season overall has been one of being a difference maker, right? He's been a big difference maker. Yeah. And if you think about when was the last time he actually did make a difference for Liverpool, it's probably the Man City game away at the end of February. Since then, he scored a couple against Southampton. You don't really need to do much to be a difference maker against Southampton, so we'll probably put that to one side. Yeah. But he's definitely tailed off. Now, I don't know if that's because it's probably a combination of all the things you're talking about. The PSG thing is a heartbreaker for them. Yeah. The cup final's a heartbreaker for them. And Slot said after the League Cup final, look, I'll accept lots of things, but I won't accept being outworked by another team, particularly in a final. And you wondered whether they just.
I don't think it was a heartbreaker for them. I think,
but I think their hearts had already been broken.
Right. I think the PSG broke them. Yeah.
And I think I also feel like you go to somewhere like Fulham who do love it against a big team coming to town. They make a big thing of it. A lot's actually talked about. The idea of like Fulham fans' genteel nature that is by the river. It feels like the sun's always shining and it's a nice place to go.
They've never been down there with him.
No, I have. I have.
Scary.
Never again.
Yeah,
never again.
That's right.
It's just patio furniture everywhere.
That's right. People in the river.
But Fulham.
I stay away when Forest turn up in case Frankie Clark is there.
the patio chairs just come flying back out again, covered in weeds. But it's a close stadium, and the fans are on top of you. And Fulham just love a big team coming to town. And if you're not right at it, it's actually what I saw of the game. I wasn't at the game like you were, Marcus, but what I saw was actually quite similar to when Leeds United went to Fratton Park. You go there, you think you're good enough to win, you have to put it in. You can't show such a lack of intensity. And the lack of intensity from Liverpool at Craven Cottage came from things like basic mistakes being made by Robertson. Robertson was really... I thought Van Dijk was really poor.
Yeah, he was.
There's something in what Jim's... Was it you, Jim, who said something about how the aura of Van Dijk is harder than actually playing against him these days?
I think what happens with Van Dijk a lot is you see players bottle taking him on. Yeah. So he doesn't... Well, it's probably he quite often doesn't have to do that much defending because teams will cut inside.
It's also partly because they're worried he's going to throw his fucking elbow in their face, which he seems to do every single game.
You saw that the rigmarole Beto had, gave him in the first half against Everton.
Yeah, going over.
I think Muniz is just like Curtis Jones at right back. I think Curtis Jones is a very, very good player, obviously, but he's not a right back, although he did okay there. But he's not a right back. And so there's an area that you can target. And now, with Muniz, he's looking at Van Dijk, and Marco Silva has said to him, he's not the player he was a year or two ago. Van Dijk's one of the finest centre-halves we've ever seen in this country, right?
Yeah, and he generally has a physical advantage over a lot of strikers. Well, of course. A player like Muniz can stand up to that.
Yeah, and again, at this stage in the season, right now, yes, but normally no. But this is the thing, and I suppose I always thought that Liverpool. You talk about Man City needing a rebuild, and I thought, I wonder if is rebuild too strong a word for Liverpool? Obviously you've got.
Well, they're about to win the league at a precision.
Exactly, and Klopp did a lot of new signings and restructured that midfield and so on. But this summer's big for Liverpool. I think it's bigger than what I personally perhaps thought.
Well, it's always been big because the players are going to lose.
Indeed,
yeah.
But
it depends if they actually do lose them. But if they do, it's huge.
Well, I thought they would lose Salah, but there are a handful of players. We talked about it before who could take over from him. I say take over, who they could get in there. I don't know if Van Dijk will stay. Why would you stay if you? I mean, anyway, you get into that.
If they, the season kind of petering out as it has, really does feel like, a good time to leave.
That's what I mean.
Like a good ending to end with a title.
Yeah, I still think Van Dijk can cut it at the top level. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, let's not mince words. He has been one of the best defenders, if not the best defender in the league for the majority of the season.
Yeah, well, of course. And the last, since he's really been at Liverpool, you could argue that. But I mean, when Muniz is scoring Bergkamp-esque goals like that, is there any defender that's a match for him?
Yeah.
Come on.
Absolute beauty.
Come on.
Best of the three, wasn't it? It's brilliant.
I love the fact that Iwobi just booted it back. He was like leading way back. He's like, try and get that near the box.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, what a touch, Luke!
It was fantastic, and he is like one of these players, Muniz, who you just think, oh yeah, they've got Muniz.
Well, he can do that. He can go quiet a little bit, but that's the thing.
Springtime is honestly, to me, was electric at the end of last season, wasn't he? Just needs a bit of sunshine. Get him a sunbed.
Yeah. Maybe that's him.
Springtime for Muniz.
That's what we want. Glorious goal, which of course ended up being the winning goal.
But they have a lot of joy, don't they? Fulham. If you look at the profile of the three players that scored and the positions they played, Iwobi makes it hard for Curtis Jones. And there's some Liverpool fans listening here will be saying, look, hang on a minute, we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold unavailable, Conor Bradley's not fit to start, we've got a guy playing out of position there, so you've got to acknowledge that, I think. And Robertson's not really been the same for a while. He's been inconsistent for a while, and he gets kind of dominated and makes a mistake, and obviously Sessegnon scores off the right side, and then Muniz is able to bully and occupy the centre backs and Van Dijk. So look, you can't read too much into just one game.
No,
but it's a great result for Fulham. I do think there's definite evidence, like decent obvious evidence that it's petering out for Liverpool. You know, we talked about this anyway as they slowly started to drop out of different competitions. You go, well, look, you know, were they ever really going to win all four? Probably not. But they're going to come out of this probably limping over the line rather than, you know, striving and dipping.
Yeah,
and you know,
but limping over the line with still a healthy lead. I mean, again,
winning the Premier League for Liverpool. All about the context around it, particularly given that the only time they've won it in the last 30 years was during COVID. They weren't able to celebrate with their fans properly, all the rest of it. It's still going to be absolutely massive for them. You know, I think there's probably an element to it with Arsenal fans where they're like, well, it's probably gone anyway, but there's probably a little...
Probably.
No, but what I'm saying is the idea that you somehow don't have some kind of pang of, oh, that's annoying because...
Of course.
Yeah, it would be ridiculous because you're a football fan. That's how it goes. If Arsenal had won against Everton, and to be fair to Jim, and I'm going to come on to this, but Jim said he didn't think Arsenal would win against Everton. It's fair enough. If they had won against Everton, it's 9 points. They've still got to play Liverpool.
Yeah.
And Liverpool are sinking like a fucking stone. It would have been really interesting. But I understand reaching there. I know that. But it's worth making the point about the context.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do here in the show, isn't it? None of the top five won this weekend. The Premier League is determined to just be invisible this season.
No. I was surprised. I watched a lot of football this weekend, as I always do. I was actually pretty surprised, even by the context of what has been quite an odd season anyway, of the amount of teams that just looked like completely bereft. I mean, you know, the obvious ones, Manchester Derby, yeah, that was terrible. Brentford, Chelsea as well. Bit fucking listless from what I could see.
Is it because it's the first warm weekend of the year and everyone's going, oh, could be in a beer garden here?
It's one of those players got sent off at Crystal Palace Brighton.
Yeah.
Fucking, I'll get a shower, get out of here.
Yeah.
Get yourself down the Dog and Duck, which is the only pub that anyone in football refers to, even though I've never been to a pub called the Dog and Duck.
No, I haven't either. But thank goodness for Fulham, though, for giving a bit of excitement. Eh?
Fantastic.
What do you think of Fulham's European chances? I mean, they're currently 8th. Newcastle 2 points above them with 2 games in hand, and then you've got Villa, Man City, Chelsea, Forest, Arsenal, Liverpool. Just to jump in and answer my own question, I've always felt that Fulham, realistically, if the results go the way and the certain teams win certain cups and all, whatever the permutations, if Fulham can hold on to 8th spot and nip into the Europa Conference League,
that'd be lovely,
because you'd have a chance of winning it. Any Premier League side has a very realistic chance. The problem for Fulham is they've got Brighton just a point behind them, and then you've got Bournemouth, although Bournemouth not showing too much, but they're still in there. And old Palace with a game in hand. I mean, the run they're going.
Palace got momentum. Yeah. It comes. This is the only part of the table that is interesting, and it comes down to who can harness the opposite of what Jim's just talked about there, about the idea that people are wrapping their hands in. If you can show the intensity that Fulham showed against Liverpool, or that actually, to be fair to Villa, they and Forest, they juked out quite a good one as well.
Yeah.
Like so. If you can show that kind of intensity, you can definitely squeeze yourself in there. Anyone down to Palace, I would say, because I don't think Brentford looked very consistent either. So down to Palace is up for grabs, definitely.
But I would have thought the top 7, with Chelsea 4th, Man City 5th, Villa 6th, Newcastle 7th. I think for Fulham and Brighton to get into that is very difficult.
Particularly because Fulham are so inconsistent.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's doable, but I think, again, Newcastle with those 2 games in hand and what they got Leicester tonight, so you would have thought. But yeah, fascinating part of the table.
Just enjoy the win. Take the win.
Well, I am.
Take it.
You're trying to take it away from me.
I'll do whatever I can to take any joy away from you, mate. You know that.
Well, you've never succeeded so far. Hence, we're still together at the table.
But the joy is in the journey, not the destination. It's the journey, not the destination, Marcus.
The joy is in the jeopardy. Now then, everybody, before we go for a break, here's a little tip for you. Head over to the Football Ramble YouTube channel this evening, where Jim and I are previewing Real Madrid's visit to the Emirates on Tuesday night. It's a huge game. And Jim thinks Arsenal have a better chance than a lot of people think, because a lot of people think Real Madrid will win that game.
Jim's on the record saying he's going to give him a good old pumping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's good. It's good stuff.
If you want
Lots of wankos.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, if you want to see Jim's face as he stakes a claim for Arsenal against Real Madrid, then head over to the Football Ramble YouTube channel at 6 p.m. on Monday today to hear more about that. Okay, coming up after this, Southampton make history!
We're going on tour. That's right. Football Ramble Time Tunnel is hitting Newcastle, Birmingham, Manchester, London and Glasgow between the 9th and the 17th of May. Get your tickets by clicking the link in the top corner of this video now.
Last one, Tom. I said on this radio station last week, if Reading get to Wembley, I'm going to wear my white Versace suit.
Reading get to Wembley with fucking loads of prostitutes.
Whoa! There's always one, isn't there? Apologies. Tom was doing so well.
Oh, welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. That was a Reading fan calling in on BBC Radio
There
Berkshire.
really is not much to do in Reading. It's, as we heard there, it's watch Reading, go to the carpet right next door, or do what he said.
Right.
Which I'm not associating myself with, and nor should you be, Marcus. Don't look at me like that.
Thanks to friend of the Ramble, Pretty Visitor, appropriately named perhaps, for sending us that clip. You can become a friend of the Ramble too by heading over to patreon.com/Football Ramble. You'll become a member of the Football Ramble Discord. You'll get ad-free episodes of the Ramble, of course. You'll get brand new Patreon-exclusive content every single Wednesday too, all for just $5 a month. Head to patreon.com/Football Ramble to sign up. Now, Pretty Visitor also pointed out that the town we spoke about on Friday, which plays the medieval football match every year, is called Ashburn in Derbyshire.
Yeah, I thought it was called Ashington for some reason, but Ashbourne is absolutely spot on. Thank you for clarifying that.
There we are, you see. Now, on to the relegation battle in the Premier League. It's not a battle, is it?
No, it's a massacre.
Yes.
That's the point, isn't it? It's the Somme, isn't it?
Southampton have...
It's not even the Somme. It's not.
I was going to say that
way more one-sided.
The Somme was keenly contested, if you look at the history books. Southampton...
General Custer's last stand.
Yeah, okay.
Could be that, couldn't it?
Yes, Wolves, of course, beat Ipswich 2-1, and that meant Southampton had to win at Spurs. And to be fair, you know, with all the grounds you needed to win...
To me, it was a complicated one for me because I'm obviously absolutely delighted that Southampton have been relegated in record time, with the most games remaining ever, I think.
7 matches remaining. That's a record because Ipswich, Derby, Huddersfield and Hull all went down with 6 games remaining.
Yeah.
There are loads.
How did Derby...
Pompey had done it with 5.
How did Derby only had 6 when they got that?
Yeah, it's weird that, isn't it?
Yeah, that extra point, though.
But Southampton is not the earliest in terms of the calendar, though, which is weird.
No, but you do it by the matches, I think.
Cool, absolutely. Damn right we do on this show.
Yeah.
Right now. But there was part of me, quite a small part of me, given that Southampton were going to be relegated anyway, that would have found it funny if they won at Spurs. Because I wanted to see what Ange Postecoglou would have said.
Yes.
But obviously they're so bad they can't get anywhere near even doing that.
Couldn't even enjoy a day out at the lovely stadium.
No, they couldn't.
They couldn't. They're still rock bottom of the Premier League with just 10 points, and they now have 7 games to get 2 points to avoid getting that incredibly unwanted record that Derby County still have, of course, of 11 points. I still find it extraordinary that they managed that, because this is just so painfully bad. Because aside who, I don't know, say if a team got 20 points in a Premier League season, you think that is really piss poor.
Definitely.
It's half of that.
We mentioned on a Reacts recently, didn't we? I'm not sure if you were there for it, Luke, but like, if this were a driver's license, they'd still be allowed to drive in April. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I think when something is this sort of historically bad, you have to look beyond the team and beyond the managers as well. Like, the board have to take a lot of responsibility for this, because obviously Russell Martin took them up playing in a particular way, and obviously it's completely reasonable to give him a chance to establish that and to see if it works in the Premier League. And of course, when it didn't in quite spectacular a fashion, it's also reasonable to move on from him. But Juric has been a disaster. Absolutely just dreadful. I know it's probably quite difficult to get someone into a job in that situation, but at the same time, it's the Premier League and there's a lot of money on offer, and it has just been... It's been so bad. I don't
think they were quite this bad under Martin.
I don't think so. They at least had an identity.
Yeah, and they had some quite hallmark, terrible performances, but they were actually, fairly competitive in some games. This has just been abysmal. I mean, it's been so poor. If you look at the fact they obviously squeezed past Ipswich at Portman Road, which is quite a surprising result, given that Ipswich were also fighting for their lives. It's been absolutely appalling ever since, outside either side of that, really bad. I think also it does speak more broadly to the idea of how big the gap is between the Championship and the Premier League now. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if say Leeds, Burnley and Sheffield United come up this summer. They're big clubs, who've got a recent history of being competitive in the Premier League. If they all become absolutely miles off it, it's a real existential issue, I think.
I think you're right, and I think next season, the neutral should want the Championship clubs who go up to do well next season, because the last thing we want is this. Obviously, you've been a Portsmouth fan, you've enjoyed it to some extent, but you don't want to see a side with 10 points in 8.
No, it's a mockery of the whole thing, and they've not been competitive, which in a large way has contributed to the kind of boredom in 2 of the 3 parts of the table that we're interested in this time of the season, because you want the title race, you want the race for Europe, and you want relegation. Well, 2 of those are done, and the big part of the reason for that is because these teams who've been promoted have not been competitive at all. And I think what Southampton need to do next is really work out what they're all about, because they've got Juric, they signed him on an 18-month deal, presumably because he was just like, look, you're desperate, there's no way I'm taking a 6-month deal, I want more money. If they are intending to part ways with him because he's been catastrophic, the next thing they do is really seismically important, because look what's happened to Luton.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Look what's happened in the past where teams go down twice. Luton are going to go again probably. They got rid of their manager anyway. So what they do next is massive. They've also got some players there who you'd think, what are you going to do? It's like a particular Aaron Ramsdale, someone like that, who's essentially going to be a Championship player now.
You'd think that they could cash in on a few, like
Ramsdale and Dibbling maybe.
Dibbling or Harwood Bellis. There's a few there, but again, you don't want to sort of sell all your best players, but they might have to.
Flynn Downs is another one people talked about. I mean, the thing is though, none of these players have really played that well. You can't make an argument that any of them have played very well. I mean, normally in this situation, the goalkeeper comes out of him a bit of credit, but Ramsdale really hasn't. What we're used to seeing is when a team is getting battered every week in the Premier League, the goalkeeper normally gets a real kind of spotlight for making all these different saves.
Look how hard he's done at times,
but he's also shown that the mistakes that essentially cost him his Arsenal career are still there, and that's a problem, isn't it?
I feel a bit sorry for Ramsdale. I think Ramsdale could get a move personally.
I'm sure he can.
I think he'll get a move.
He's a Premier League goalkeeper.
But he's now in the position where a year on or whatever it is, I don't know how long he's been there now, but a year on or whatever, he's gone from a goalkeeper who was, at a massive club, playing for England, or in the England squad at least.
Still is, but
but he's miles off it now. Let's be fair, because of the career decisions he's made.
Well, we did. I mean, it was a difficult one for him. Do you sit on the bench all season for Arsenal and barely play a minute, or do you get some? You're the number one. You're going to get a full season.
Or do you get amongst your agent and say, "I'm Aaron fucking Ramsdale. Get me a better club than Southampton, please." And his agent should be able to do that.
Well, clearly wasn't.
I'm an England goalkeeper.
Well, and for me, hindsight is obviously 20/20 vision, but you wonder if. Because Southampton were always going to struggle. So it's a club he knows well, and maybe that was part of the reason. But I wonder if he'll think to himself, why didn't I just stay at Arsenal and then in January really try to push it? But as I say,
bide your time.
It's easy. It's easy to
especially for a keeper. Maybe going abroad would have been the answer.
Yeah. But I would say that not to broaden this out too much, because I know this is a Premier League focused show today. But if you look at the 3 teams that are been the best teams in the Championship this season, obviously only 2 of them can go up automatically, and that's a really exciting race. And Leeds are dropping off a bit, but. The way Burnley play is they keep it super tight. They've seen 12 goals this season. It's incredible.
That is unbelievable, isn't it?
But they're not going to be able to do it in the Premier League. It's not going to be able to do that, right? Then there's no way they'll be able to play like that in the Premier League. Leeds United scored a ton of goals. They basically knock along at 2 goals a game. Right? They're not going to be able to do that in the Premier League. And what are Sheffield United? Well, they're kind of a bit of both, with no clear kind of one way or the other. Like. It almost becomes an impossible question to answer when, say, these 3 teams, who I think are the best 3 teams in the Championship, say they do go up, one of them through the playoffs, and they all go up, they're all going to be sitting around during the summer when they report back going, how are we going to do this?
Managers have all been relegated from the Premier League.
And I think it's a question that it becomes more and more difficult to answer every year.
Because with Burnley, I remember when obviously Parker was in charge of Fulham, that was the thing, try and keep it really, really tight. They didn't score many goals. And Fulham, they didn't get miserably relegated like, say, Southampton or whatever. They still went down. And it's going to be very, very difficult for those sides and for those managers who have... Parker's still a young manager, but with Farker and Chris Wilder, who have given reasonable accounts of themselves in the Premier League, but ultimately been relegated as well. How do they go about it? And how does Parker then go, right, I've got to have a bit of a rethink here? Because if they go up... then he's got another bite at the cherry, and you wouldn't want to throw that away.
I always get it's a really good point. I always just get really nervous about who's going to provide the goals as well. I mean, Burnley's top scorer this season is Josh Brown, with 13 goals. Like 13 goals in the Championship. What does that translate to in the Premier League?
Yeah,
it's tough.
Yeah,
and Southampton have proven it, and I'm delighted they've proven it. I'm delighted they've proven how difficult it is. I'm a bit disappointed with
They're not down, but I mean, they're all but down because the Opta supercomputer has said that Wolves now have a 99.9% chance of staying in the Premier League. I love it if the supercomputer just took the piss and went 100%, they're not going to go down. Yeah. Ipswich 12 points behind them, of course, with just 7 games left. I mean, McKenna at the end of the game said, look, we know. Which is quite, it's the refreshing honesty that we crave. But he said, obviously, we're going to fight for all the points until it's mathematically been possible. But that was such a damning loss. Yeah. But I say damning, even if they'd have won.
It gives them a glimmer.
Yeah,
it gives them a glimmer.
Ipswich are in a slightly different position from Southampton and Leicester, aren't they? In which, they essentially, they were the classic example of a team promoted sort of too early. Back-to-back promotions is an astonishing thing. Everyone expected this to happen to them, so it doesn't quite seem like the same level of absolute catastrophe, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I think one thing I would say is that Liam Delap, who I've been talking in very high terms about, he got his 12th league goal of the season for a side of what scored, I think it's 31 in 31 Premier League games. To get 12, again, a side who at no point really did anybody think that they were going to survive. There may be a fighting chance a few months ago.
His playing style is really all action as well. It reminds me of, so you sometimes see a really obvious opportunity in the market where, say, if in previous times you'd got Falcao from Porto rather than Atletico Madrid, you'd have saved yourself like 60 million quid. Yeah. I feel like Liam Delap is that player right now. Yeah. A big club should just sign him. Because I honestly, you're right, 12 goals in that team, the style of his play, his age profile, and the type of character he seems to be, I think he could slot right into a top team. I think he's got the character for it.
I think, though, that teams who are, ambitious sides like, say, Fulham, Brighton, Palace and Bournemouth have got forwards, but I think they should be looking at it, because you're right, Jim. Liverpool are not going to sign him. Arsenal are not going to sign him. Forest would be another one. Obviously, Chris Wood has had a brilliant season, not getting any younger. I don't think Chelsea would have a punt on him. Man City, no.
Chelsea have been linked a lot, but that doesn't really. They're linked to everyone.
I'd be surprised.
I think he fits into Forest like a glove.
Yeah, you start going down. You talk about the
Villa
big
as well.
Villa have got Watkins. I wouldn't have thought they would.
Watkins is 30 though.
Yeah, but I again, the price tag to get maybe. I don't think Newcastle are not going to buy him, are they? You suddenly look around. Obviously, if there's a bit of movement, if indeed Arsenal fancy having another bid for Watkins, which seems
poor old Ipswich fans tuning into this.
Why?
They're about to be relegated. Now you're linking their best player of all these moves.
Do you have any sympathy for the Southampton fans listening?
No, because they've got no players that are going to be linked with anyone.
I think that the linking is not my word.
But I think the two interesting conversational points about Ipswich this season are actually one of them you talked about, which is Liam Delap, what he does next, and what the manager does next. Because the manager's had an amazing journey, right? And if you said, no one really fancied Ipswich to stay up. I think the only caveat to that was just that how good can Kieran McKenna be as an innovator, as a motivator, as a tactician? Because it's going to take some Herculean effort to find a way for Ipswich to survive in this league, and he obviously hasn't been able to do that. Now, he will now have to decide whether he wants to stay there and have another go at it, to which he might think, this has been an apprenticeship for me, and I've learnt enough, and now I'm done enough to go and get a job somewhere else. But that's got to be the right job. It's got to be the right job. Yeah. Or he might say, I want to have another crack at this, and I want to try and do it better. And I don't know which one he's going to do. And Liam Delap is the other one, obviously. Delap fits in so well to a Premier League, a decent Premier League team's forward line, because he's got all the stuff he's got. He's quick. He scores different types of goals. He's managed to find a way to score goals in a really, really difficult season. He's fucking massive. He's like an absolute tank as well. Yeah. He's strong.
And also, he came through at Man City as well. Yeah. So he's had that education as well.
Got a massive throw. Oh, that's his dad.
Probably genetically, he'll have that in them.
Yeah,
or in him. But he'll need to be on the end of it as well.
Yeah. I like him at Forest. I think and that's no disrespect to Chris Wood.
I like him.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Now, Wolves, of course, have won their last 3 games. They haven't had Mateus Cunha for their last 4. He's off, isn't he?
Yeah, it looks like he might do.
Whatever he says or doesn't say.
Yeah, as I say, whether it's a good fit or not, for some reason, I think Arsenal will sign him.
Cunha.
Yeah. It's kind of like, yeah, he's a forward. Is he the forward that they would want or need? I don't know, but I could just imagine the board at Arsenal going, yeah, he's quite flashy.
His injury record's all right, isn't it? Yeah, but it's a suspension record.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Did you see what I mean, Jim?
Yeah. He missed 20 games through dissent.
Yeah. And now he wants
That was just through stealing glasses.
Yeah, and now he wants to play on the wing rather. Oh no, it's happening again. I don't know. There will be suitors for Cunha, whether that's here or abroad. I don't think there's too much doubt about that. So we shall see. Chaps, let's move on to Crystal Palace 2, Brighton 1. It didn't end 1-1.
No, it didn't.
No.
It didn't end 1-1.
I mean, it nearly did. It nearly did.
Yeah, as in like one
Well, there
player.
was only one goal difference.
I thought you meant one player left on the pitch.
No, but
for each team.
also that.
He nearly, Brighton nearly got a point, you could say. Do you know what I mean?
What I'm saying is, they tend to end 1-1, and this one ended 2-1. It's not a million miles away from 1-1.
Yeah, okay, fine.
That's what I'm saying.
In the same way, I nearly ran the 100 metres at the Olympics. I was just a couple of rows away from
He
them.
takes issue with me saying that. On Friday, you were calling it El Flapico, and he didn't give a shit.
We all thought that was great.
It was great.
Well, that's why I didn't take issue with it.
It lived up to the billing, didn't it? I tell you, a lot of geographically closer derbies could learn a lot from this game.
They could.
The needle.
They could.
Oh, it's great.
It's great, and I think what's also great is that when LiveScore, who are our generous sponsors on Friday, they refer to Eddie Nketiah on their app as Edward Nketiah.
Nice.
Surely,
When it flashed up that he had been sent off, it made it seem like LiveScore were actually annoyed with him.
Yeah,
they were like his
sending
dad.
him to the headmaster.
Yeah.
When he went down, I thought he was like Eddie the Eagle, which works at Palace.
Yeah, it does work
He's
at
Eddie the
Palace.
Eagle. But he's always Eddie the Eagle there, isn't
Indeed, he is. 3 red cards in a Premier League game for the first time since April 2013.
Wow.
I couldn't believe that.
Also, it's very. Tell me what you think about this.
Which was Southampton 2, West Brom 1.
Of course it
Heady
was.
days.
These 3 sends off, that was actually 6.
Cards.
6 yellow cards that you can't have an issue with any of them.
Yeah.
Well, Nketiah, I mean, there was a little bit of contact. But the thing is that, again, much like in a slightly
But the
similar way.
referees get a lot of stick, and rightly so. I mean, fucking Miles Lewis-Skelly, I mean, that was ridiculous. That was absolutely ridiculous. The referees get a lot of stick, particularly when it comes to Arsenal. I thought for this game, I thought he got all the yellow cards spot on.
Well,
I think with Nketiah, yeah. So I know what you're saying, Marcus, that he's maybe a bit hard done by. But the thing is, I think he's had an opportunity where he's like, I can just go down here because of that, and he's taken that opportunity. I think that's why the ref booked
I
him.
mean, it's a dive.
Yeah, so in a slightly similar way, obviously different context and all. When Ashley Young does that dive in the last seconds against Manchester United, I think he talks himself out of getting the foul.
Oh, for Everton?
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so again, slightly similar. I understand it's a bit different. And that's what Nketiah did. The way he went down, he sort of thought, no, I will cash in on that penalty. And he got a yellow card. And then, of course...
Second one, though, eh? What's amazing to me about the second Nketiah one is that lovely Uncle Mark Gay seems to take that as a template for his own second yellow.
He does it.
It's like when you're a kid and you realise, like, oh, Uncle Steve had to go away for a while because of what? It's like, not all uncles are nice men.
Well, Mark Gay's reaction was brilliant. It was as if, no, I don't do that.
Nah,
I'm really nice.
I'm Uncle Mark.
You've not seen me interviewed in the post-match. I'm lovely.
Yeah, exactly. It was
like
great.
when Logan Roy...
Because he's such a clean-cut guy, right? He just...
Like when Logan Roy hits Roman in Succession. And he does hit him, and afterwards he explains it by going... Did I do that? Because I don't do that. That's not the kind of thing I do. So did I do that? And he's going, yeah, Dad, you definitely did that.
I think that character and the actual Mark Gay are very different men.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But what I mean, we've moved on from Nketiah way too quick because I think I'm right in saying that obviously Jean-Philippe Mateta opens his account for the day with a fucking amazing goal, right?
Goal.
Yeah.
Gets subbed off. Nketiah does that a minute after coming on for him. And you're a bit like, is that what you're bringing, is it? That's what you're bringing.
Glasner's so angry with him as well.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Get one of his ears strapped up. That's how you do it.
Get him a giant ear.
Yeah.
And he could say he was off balance, and that's why he wasn't a dive, he just fell over.
It is good, though. After that injury, we've seen it with 1 or 2 players before, that Mateta is straight back at the race.
Yeah, it's really, really nice to see.
Psychologically, it's important.
Especially because that was a brilliant goal as well, wasn't it? It wasn't just one, a tap in or one that he bundled in. It was really, really brilliant.
How he found the angle from from that turn to hit the other corner past the keeper was brilliant.
It was great, and you know, we talk about Delap, obviously younger than Mateta and less experienced, but you know, occupying defenders and all hustle and bustle and all that sort of stuff. Mateta is as well. Like when he's at full flow, when he's galloping away, it's tough for defenders to stop him. So yeah, great goal for him. And of course, Jan Paul van Flippin Hecker then brought down Commander
Flippin Hecker,
Flappin Hecker,
whatever. He got involved, didn't he? He thought, well,
Inspector Hecker.
Okay.
That's Inspector Deck, but Wu-Tang, you know.
Yeah,
it's nice.
It doesn't really work. There's no point saying it.
Ant and Hecker, like what do you want, you know?
And
that deserved better.
What did you say?
Ant and Hecker. Thank you.
I was just reading about what I was going to say in the Manchester derby after the break. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Really?
Good
luck.
I'm filibustering.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I've got to figure something.
Can we enjoy this before we get to that shit?
Okay, let me just Google. Have Brighton got a player called Anthony? Anyone? Then we can do Ant and Hecker. I don't think they have.
Maybe they'll sign Anthony. Who knows?
Yankuba Minte, Yank and Hecker.
Yeah, go on.
Kind of works.
Yank and
Hecker.
Fine. I think that's as good as we're going to get. Yeah. But Palace managed to hold on for 14 minutes of stoppage time. That's Mourinho-esque stuff.
That's fantastic. Because it's all from bitterness, isn't it? It's all powered by attrition and hatred.
Yes.
And that's what we want to see.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
It was great. And Eza had a great game. Daniel Munoz has got 5 goals this season now as well. He deserves a lot of credit. He's been brilliant for them. I've said it a few times this season as Palace have kind of climbed up the table. But what I really love about watching them play is there is quality all over the pitch. Every single player is just really enjoyable to watch.
And are they timing this perfectly? Is it going to be one of those ones where they're timing their run towards the end of the season? They've got an extra game left, haven't they? Compared to all the other teams that have played 31. So they've got 8 games to go. They've 4 wins and a draw out of their last 5 games. If they time this, like, it's not a ridiculous thing to say that they could do top 6. They can't do top 4, I don't think. It's 10
I know
points
what you mean, yeah.
They could probably just about do top 6 if they keep it up.
Win the cup, though, and that's your European ticket right there.
Absolutely right.
And that's Europa League.
What's fascinating, though, is they go to Man City next. And that'll be a real test for Man City.
But it will be, and I think...
Because Palace I know they won at home against Brighton, but they are surgically designed to be brilliant away from home.
What I like about them, though, because Gary Neville, will come on to him moaning about the systems in play with Manchester United and Manchester City, how it kind of squashes the life out of any kind of creativity and players just can't go in and express themselves. What Glasner seems to have done with Palace is you've got a very, very solid back 3. Dean Henderson's having a good time in goal. England's number 2 now, you have to say he's nailed on for that. The midfield know what they're doing, but you still see the brilliances, the brilliant flashes from Eza and you know, one or two of the Salah.
They use that formation to get so much width for Mitchell and Munoz in a way the Man United don't seem to do.
Oh my goodness!
And Eze just seems like an absolutely outstanding seasoning on a dish.
Yeah, it does.
Like, because you've got this system in play. You've got this system in play. Like Jim says, gives you width, gives you a great amount of control in midfield as well, because the profile players have got central midfield, and then. That's a system that's hard enough to work out and play against, because Glasner's a really good tactician, I think. And then you've got Eze with this like total nuisance value, like X factor. He drifts everywhere.
Chipotle on there.
Yeah, it is. He can play through the middle. He can play slightly off the left, like he did against Brighton. He can hurt you as well. That goal he scored the week before.
Against Fulham, a glorious goal.
So
I want them to win the FA Cup.
That'd be brilliant.
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
They're my local team. Yeah.
And when are you going to...
If Portsmouth get relegated somehow this season again... well, not again, but they get relegated.
Palace win the cup? Glory supporter?
I'm going to start supporting Palace, yeah.
Glory supporter?
Yeah, it's not glory, is it?
If they win the cup.
Yeah, they've never won anything before.
Exactly.
And if they win something for the first time, that's me over there.
Oi,
yeah.
You've charmed me.
Yeah. I'm crossing the floor,
You've
baby.
convinced me.
I'm Michael Heseltine grabbing the mace. I'm getting involved. Tarzan in it.
Love that.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Got to mention Danny Welbeck very quickly. He's now Brighton's all-time top scorer in the Premier League.
Wow.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't have, evidently big scorers since they've been in the Premier League. But still, though, with him going there in the twilight of his career.
He absolutely snaffled that goal like a truffle pig as well, didn't he? Straight in there.
Lovely. Coming up after this, Manchester derby. Manchester United 0, Manchester City 0.
We couldn't put it further towards the bottom.
Yeah.
And this is also the week that Kevin De Bruyne announced he's leaving Man City.
That's the only reason this is in there, let's be honest.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
my take homes from the game were that I think Jeremy Doku might have been a really cute baby.
Yeah. Mine is, the only line I wrote here was, it was impossible to keep your eyes on it, wasn't it?
as I say, I flew back from the cottage to watch this.
It was basically like watching. So who's your favourite band? So your favourite band's Oasis, right? You'd be excited about
they're back together.
You'd be excited about going to see them.
Glory,
right?
aren't they?
This is like going to watch No Oasis. It was like a tribute band. It was like a tribute Manchester Derby. It was like they'd done everything they could. Look, guys, we can't get the real Man United or Man City. We can do it. In Manchester, but we're going to have to do it with like a rough approximation.
It was a bit like the time I saw By Jovi.
Yeah,
at the cartoon in Croydon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It was a friend's birthday.
It was a bit like when I went to go and see that heavy metal ABBA tribute band at Abattoir.
Oh.
Which actually happened. They're actually a band.
I'm glad they are.
Cracking open a tinny. He's driven him to drink.
Fulham beat Liverpool. You talk about Oasis.
There he goes. There was a point in this game where Man United had the ball in midfield. It looked like they were about to break, and then Rasmus Højlund shanked it out for a throw-in, and I was just like, this is my Sunday as well. Like, you're meant to be entertaining me.
Yeah.
You prick.
Yeah.
Like, I was genuinely quite annoyed at him. It's like, it's really sunny outside. You at least get to be in the sunshine.
Don't have a go at
You're playing in the game.
Right, he's terrible, isn't he?
No, but it's not. It's Manchester United's fault.
Yeah. It does seem that way.
What did Brassel say on a WhatsApp? He's got loan move to Serie A next season, finishes in the top 3 top scorers next season.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
It was a very strange game. I mean, no one seemed even slightly bothered. At one point, Ruben Diaz tripped up Manuel Ugarte off the ball. I think the ball going to play. And it was like totally unnecessary. And Ugarte got jumped up. And you could see they both wanted to feel something, but anything.
Yes.
But they didn't. And then they just both walked off. Like there was a really kind of tick the box chest bump. And this is two quite, I mean, particularly Ugarte, quite explosive characters. Just sacking it off. Not bothered.
Ugarte's last moment of the game was slamming the ball into a Man United fan's balls. Feels like an appropriate.
It was a really nice hit.
Why are you lot still here?
Yeah, exactly. Get out.
Yeah,
get out.
Gary Neville wasn't happy with the loving between the players.
I can't even remember anyone who's playing.
No,
other than that,
Neville said it looks like a Sunday afternoon. They're all going for a roast dinner together now. I can't. How funny would that be if like the pictures emerge of them all in wings, sitting Man United player, Man City player, Man United player, and all sat round. It'd be lovely.
I tell you,
some more 0-0s.
The only better piece of evidence I can give you about how pedestrian this game is or was. Is that Casemiro was given man of the match by Opta.
Sky Sports given him 8 out of 10.
If every game's a walking game, he's fucking brilliant.
He should play walking football.
Yeah.
He would give you solid foundation to build on.
I also just felt that if you look at a player like I'm not picking him out for any other particular reason other than this, that Patrick Dorgu, 20-year-old, sort of left-sided kind of defender / wing back in this system for United, coming through at Lecce. Made some appearances for Denmark's first team now. Seems to be a prospect. Brassel talks about how people wanted him. There was no way anyone was going to pay what Man United paid for him, so he ends up at Man United. And it just looks shit. He looks shit.
That's why it's hard to judge any of these players. And this whole thing of, but this Amorim system, it shouldn't take this long to see some sort of... We've seen a few little improvements, but it shouldn't take this long for it to... He's still shit, as you say.
Bruno Fernandes looked like
I don't know who to blame now.
Could play.
Yeah, I don't know who to blame because Amorim, we know, is a good coach, and as I say, I think he may well become the first post-Ferguson Manchester United coach to walk from the job rather than be sacked. But how is it so?
I don't think he'll do that. I think you're going to have to keep your powder dry for the summer. See how the first few months of the next season go.
Oh, no, I don't think he's going to walk this summer. As in, my point about that is that I don't think.
He'll just get he'll just get so frustrated over and over
just
again.
Be like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the summer. Fine, I get the fact that a new manager coming in, and he's not a new manager anymore, but someone coming in with different ideas, it's going to be a bit bumpy and it could be up and down. But when people say up and down, it involves the word up.
Yes.
There's hardly anything. Obviously, they're still alive in the Europa League, and they could feasibly win that competition. But it's so pedestrian and so drab. But then I suppose the argument might be that pedestrian is better than utter shit.
It was a really, really poor testament to Kevin De Bruyne's Man City career. I mean, the fact that he was involved in that, didn't really do anything. He's a shadow of the player.
But he's kind of checked out as well. He probably should have left last summer.
I mean, this is a perfect illustration of how it's the right time, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Bernardo Silva apparently always wanted to, the last few years he always wanted to leave, and Guardiola's always talked him into staying. With De Bruyne, again, I just wonder, last summer, there's a few of these players who, again, have been some of the best players we've seen in this league. The performances they've put in, the numbers they've hit, the trophies they've won, they are all-timers, with the likes of De Bruyne. And Bernardo Silva, you could maybe say he's up there as well. He's certainly a fantastic player, and he's been a great servant to Man City and the Premier League in general. So, again, this is not to diminish anything anybody has done, but this season, I just think that idea that Pep talked them into, or whoever talked them into staying, come on, one last hurrah or one last... I just think it was a bridge too far, because they've been so exhausted, because playing that level of quality football for so long, it eventually catches up with the best. And we see that with De Bruyne, because De Bruyne is one of the best midfielders we've ever seen in this country.
Definitely, I think
just such an amazing player.
In a week that he's announced that he's leaving Man City, we should definitely spend a bit of time talking about how good he's been. The only player to get more Premier League assists than him is Ryan Giggs, who obviously had a kind of a mutant of a career, just how long it was, and no one's really got near him in terms of assists because of the longevity of his career. But I mean, De Bruyne is second; he's the best of the rest. Two Player of the Year awards in the Premier League as well.
And when he was on
Premier Leagues,
won everything with him.
Yeah.
When he was on song, it was, how do you play against that guy? Because he's big, he's physical, but the technique, the touch, the creativity, and
all of which he does so well at speed.
Oh my goodness, Jim! And also as well, talk about the systems, and again, Neville and one or two others going off on that. What was incredible about De Bruyne in that Guardiola system, which of course was so good that even if you just play within that system, you're probably going to win the game. De Bruyne had the license and the ability to break free and then just go, do you know what, I'm just going to ping one in for the top corner from 25 yards.
And he could also do that. I always felt like some of the best passers of the ball you've ever seen. If you look at, say, a Xavi and an Iniesta, the way they would kind of incisively pull you apart would be a lot of kind of small, short passes with great movement, and then maybe something inside the fullback or whatever. But it would be like death with 1,000 cuts.
Sure. Yeah.
Whereas De Bruyne would slice you clean in half with a kind of microscopically targeted pass. There's exactly the right weight onto exactly the right foot of the player. They didn't have to do anything or break his stride or whatever. The amount of times at his best he would do that, and like you say, you cannot defend against that. Whatever systems are in place, however tactics has moved on over the years with all these different influential coaches and stuff, there still remains like an X factor in the game where the beautiful thing about it is that you could think you've developed an amazing system which is kind of infallible, and then a player like De Bruyne will come along, occupy space you don't even know is there, and will pull you to pieces when he feels like it, with just the most incredibly accurate passes. It was a joy to watch. I don't think we've not seen the best of him this season. He's not started a huge amount of games. He's kind of tailed off badly. And so have Man City, to be fair.
But I mean,
but when he was at his best, like whatever it was, like 19, 20 through to about 22, he's just as you say, one of the very, very best to ever do it. It's fantastic to watch.
I think when you look at Man City's great teams, he is I mean, obviously, you look at the goal scorers, maybe it's a better way to describe it, but it feels like he is the point of the Man City knife, isn't he? He is what elevated them into something essentially unplayable.
I think there's been, given that you take into account the fact that Man City are to a large extent making their history in this era, and whatever you think about the kind of the root of that is a different conversation, but they are making their history now, and there's a load of key individuals that have come to represent more than just a player or a manager. So you obviously Guardiola, Aguero, Kompany, David Silva, you'd probably argue. There's a few others I've probably missed out, but De Bruyne's one of them, for sure.
I think he might be, if you were talking about the Man City all-time 11, and let's keep it 21st century just for argument's sake, I think he might be the first name on the sheet.
Absolutely.
Even above, say, Kompany, but again, that's just me putting that. But also as well, just very quickly, if I may, what I love about De Bruyne is any era you put him in, he's quality. Because that ruggedness as well, but also the ability to be such an important cog in the system. But
always pissed off as well, always angry.
Yeah, but the idea, the ability to just shoot, again, he's got that all-action kind of vibe that Steven Gerrard did in his best days, the Hollywood passes, the shots from distance and all that kind of stuff. But again, in terms of fitting in a system and playing his role as well, just a glorious footballer.
Yeah, he'll be missed.
Yes,
absolutely.
He certainly will be missed. Before we go, gentlemen, a quick update on José Mourinho. We spoke about him grabbing the nose of Galatasaray manager Okan Buruk last week, and then Fenerbahce's statement, of course, which blamed Buruk because he was clearly
he hit Mourinho right on the fingers with his nose.
Absolutely right. And then, of course, the Galatasaray South Parks, José Mourinho, etc., etc. Mourinho has now received his punishment. The Turkish FA said he will be fined £6,000 and banned from entering the dressing room and the bench for 3 games. And I thought, get the laundry basket out.
Yeah.
$6,000 though, Jimmy. He'll feel that in his pocket, won't he?
He will. He'll be annoyed about that. The thing is, he genuinely will be annoyed about that.
Yeah.
The thing about this, though, is that is that a good punishment? Because don't you want to know where he is?
Yeah,
Isn't
true.
it better to know exactly where he is? He's in the building somewhere.
I'd put him on the bench, but in that Hannibal Lecter mask.
Yeah.
Strap him in.
I go to the dressing room during the day, so I was there from midday and the game was at 7 o'clock. I just want to be in the dressing room with the players. That is what he said with regard to that time when Chelsea smuggled him into the
What, is he
dressing
going to
room.
camp like 3 nights before, like a sniper? Just so he's going to be there already, so no one can stop him.
I went there and nobody saw me. The problem was to leave after, and Stuart Bannister, the kit man, put me in the basket. It was a little bit open so I could breathe.
Incredible.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Although, quite incredibly, Fenerbahce, they beat Trabzonspor 4-1 yesterday to go within 3 points of Galatasaray in the title race. Do you want him to win it? Because I bloody do.
Oh, my God, yes. Imagine.
But part of me thinks like it'd be fun if they lost on the final day to a dodgy decision or something. But then he would do a Souness at Galatasaray, even though they weren't playing at Galatasaray. He's been smuggled in again.
If he could tell himself, he's very, very good at getting people to invest in his myth. So if he can win the Super League with Fenerbahce, he will talk about how much they're a little horse, how amazing this achievement is. He'll start saying it's like the best thing I've ever done in my career. He'll talk about the fact they've got the best defence in the league, all that kind of stuff. And he might be able to engineer himself that move to Newcastle after Eddie Howe moves on.
Now you're talking.
Yeah, because some people who don't know football intimately will fall for that.
Absolutely right.
West Ham's, your Newcastles of this world,
All right.
Guys, I've got some news.
Go on.
I'm just going to read it to you as it's written here in front of me.
Okay.
Ivan Juric has left Southampton after the club's Premier League relegation was confirmed. Southampton became the earliest team ever to be relegated from England's top flight with their 3-1 defeat at Tottenham Hotspur, seeing their demotion confirmed with 7 games to go, which is obviously the curse of the Ramble. Brilliant, as we expected.
Yep.
But the fact that they've just fired him on the Monday makes me think the club genuinely thought he might have kept him up, which is an amazing thing. Because otherwise, just leave it. Just leave it. You knew it's going to happen. He's a placeholder. He's an empty suit. But no, we had high hopes for you, Ivan, and you've let us down.
You did turn out to be a quiz question.
Yeah.
His previous job was Roma.
Good news for Simon Rusk, though.
I'd say so.
Simon Rusk will take the team to the end of the season, as he did in between Martin and Juric. That's a quiz question.
Oi.
Who took the reins in the interim period between Martin and Juric?
The Rusketeer.
The Rusketeer himself. He's bought X. He's bought Twitter. He's turned it to X. And now he's doing Southampton on an interim basis.